Now, on the topic of parents, most mums and dads are guilty of a little bit of over-parenting, but new research suggests that if you do everything for your kids, they'll never learn to do anything for themselves.
We've all heard stories of overprotective parents, finishing Jaden's homework or keeping Madison off the swings to spare her from grazed knees.
Certainly as a parent, I've felt that urge to protect the child. You don't want your children coming to you running with tears in their eyes.
But helicopter parenting is more than just an annoying cliche. It can cause real damage to young people's development. According to a recent study, overparenting leaves children unable to cope with failure and life outside the home.
Overparenting looks like very loving parenting because it's parents taking a lot of care with their children and spending a lot of time with them, but at an older age, it's not great parenting.
Let's be clear, overparenting is more than just being interested or involved in your kids' lives. We're talking about cutting a 10-year-old's food, finishing an 11-year-old's sentences, even confronting other parents to ask why your teenager isn't invited to a birthday party.
When parents make their children's lives perfect, they do sometimes get a sense of entitlement, and that makes it very difficult for them to cope with the real world.
It's really difficult to find a balance because you want to make sure that your child has the opportunity to grow and gain confidence and learn and make mistakes to do that.
Experts say there's simple ways for helicopter parents to ease back on the throttle. Don't do anything for your child that she can do by herself. Encourage children to think, speak and solve problems for themselves.
The goal of every parent is to produce a child that is able to cope with the outside world and able to cope with the ups and downs and be a loving, caring person.
You just have to realise you're not a failure as a parent if you let your children fail.
Let's ask parenting expert Dr. Justin Coulson for his thoughts. Justin, most parents are inclined to be a little bit overprotective, but how do we know when it's a problem? Like, say, when they get to the age of 45 and are still asking to go potty, that sort of thing?
That's usually a pretty good indicator. The really interesting thing about this situation is if it is a problem, the parents who are struggling with it often won't know because it's perfectly natural to want to protect and care for our kids. It's completely normal to want to be, you know, a snowplow parent, the kind of parents that push all the obstacles out of the way to make life easy for our children. We want to do that.
But Justin, sometimes it's not about over-parenting, it's just about getting out the door in the morning. I mean, if I had an hour and a half, I'm sure Ollie could tie his shoes, but you can understand why parents tie the shoes, make the lunches and do it all so that they can, you know, lead their busy life that we're all leading.
Yeah, totally understand. And it's one of those things where it's the immediate payoff versus the long-term benefit of taking a little bit more time, setting the alarm 15 minutes earlier, spending some time on the weekend learning to tie the shoelaces.
Justin, we're just talking about toddlers here, but frankly, parents are freaked out by all the bad news they're hearing. I'm feeling a tad responsible. But nevertheless, they have to exercise caution. For example, you know, what stage do you let them ride their bike on their own?
Yeah, this again comes down to the attributes of the child. Some kids are more mature than others. Some kids just take a little bit longer to develop. Some of us live in neighbourhoods where we feel really safe doing that. Other neighbourhoods are less safe. There's a whole range of factors and characteristics that should determine when we make those decisions. And this is what makes this over-parenting, under-parenting issue so complex. There are simply no easy answers. Mums and dads need to be involved, but they also need to be willing to be a bit flexible and let the kids try stuff. Let them fail. And if they get it wrong, be there to say, you know, failing's okay so long as we learn from it and we do better next time.
But it's a hard line. I mean, I guess there's a difference between letting them lose Uno every now and then so they know what it's like to lose and letting the pet rabbit die because they haven't bothered to feed it, you know?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we don't want them riding their skateboard off the roof or stealing stuff from the shops because we haven't given them money. They might end up in hospital or in jail. And it is a fine line and it's hard to balance it. Again, most parents usually have enough sense to be able to guide their kids. But you know what, the worst thing that can happen is often a little bit of skin off or a little bit of trouble with the police. And everybody learns a lot from those kinds of experiences as well.
Well, we heard it from you, Justin.
Justin, always a pleasure, mate. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Charlie.